Wideboy64 versions 1.0 and 1.1 were a much simpler hardware setup than the 1.2 and advanced Game Boy versions. These are not Super Game Boys. They were more akin to the Famicom Wideboy, except there's no obvious access to the onboard Game Boy hardware. There is a menu if you press Start on Controller 2, and what you normally see is page 3, a color adjustment feature, but there are 4 pages total and no normal way to access them. Page 1 is an info display. The 5 digits on the left count the number of times that the display function has been called. So this isn't really a frame counter because it doesn't directly correlate to the Nintendo 64 or Game Boy frames, and it only counts while it's displayed on the screen. It isn't clearly visible, but there is a decimal point between the 2 sets of 3 digits in the middle. And what that is the number of milliseconds for a single game loop, or how long it takes to send the input from the controller, read screen data, and then display it. The letters on the right are the Game Boy data that controller input that you're sending. Left and right are inverted for some reason. Z and all of the C buttons count as select. In the lower right corner is the version of the software, in this case version 1.1, and you'll see that this info display is also attached to pages 2 and 4. Page 2 gives the coordinates of a single white pixel that's being drawn to the screen. Pressing the C buttons will move it one step at a time, and holding the D-pad will move it quickly. When it moves over a certain threshold, it moves from the top of the screen to the bottom, and that will also affect page 4. Page 4 will load an image really quick. This allows it to change the Nintendo 64 side of the video output. So 0 is just the input directly from the device. 1 changes that to grayscale, 2 to sepia, and 3 inverts all of the colors. The video output is a bit complicated because what the device does is it takes the Game Boy's video output and then filters it through the color settings on the color adjustment screen, and then produces a 16-bit color array that's sent to the device as frames. This is where it differs the most from the 1.2 and advanced Game Boy, because what those do is they send the screen as a series of 5 or 6 packets and then reassemble them, which allows the entire video processing method, though, to be synchronized. There are some other controls as well. Like on controller 1, pressing the L button will change the filter mode. It starts at bilevel interpolation, then moves to average, and then to point filtered. Holding R and pressing Z resets the game. Moving the control stick up and down scales. And if you were able to press all of the D-pad buttons and C buttons at the same time, that will forcefully flush all of the settings back to the EEPROM, which may or may not be on the board. Now, the biggest difference between 1.0 and 1.1 is the displayed images. So the numbers are much thinner. There is no decimal point in this particular font. The version number obviously is 1.0. There is also the blink rate for the color adjustment screen is much slower and goes much darker.